just get into it. So you know how they say these guys have like channels that are over a mil already. Kayo, like I know kanina I asked them, okay lang kayo nag-start? Because I know you said November of last year. And if you guys don't know, like si Jamill has around 2.3 million na. Crazy. Within, so,
More pa.
Guys,
so, paano kayo nag-start ng YouTubing nyo? Camille na.
Hindi. Nag-start kami ng November. Tapos, hindi pa kami doon nag-video. Sa Facebook lang talaga. And, syempre dati merong humahawak sa amin na talagang pwede kami paghiwalayin. So, naisip namin na gumawa kami ng page ng Jamill.
Okay.
Para hindi kami maghiwalay.
Yeah,
So,
true love.
Kasi parang sineseparate kami ng landas. Di pwede. Gawa tayong page para wala magawa yung mga yan.
Mga kakampi, this is one of the biggest pieces of bullshit I've ever heard kung bakit magsistay sa isang relationship. Itong video na ito, itong clip, and ipapakita ko mamaya isa pang beses para sa mga tao na hindi pa nakapanood ng clip na yun. Pero yung clip na yun, nanggagaling sa isang YouTube conference. That video comes from the channel of my friend, Dwayne Woolley. Pwede naman ninyong panoorin yung video na yun. It is Duanta meets Jamill. And I just want to say, mga kakampi, batay pa lang doon sa paliwanag nila nung pinakauna na simulan nila ang channel nila para hindi daw sila mahiwalay. And then sumikat sila bigla. And mga kakampi, the purpose of this video right now ay hindi para magchismis, kundi para magpaliwanag ng mga bagay na napansin ko medyo hindi ko alam kung kulang sa pangunawa ng mga iba, pero may mga toxic relationships talaga na nangyayari, and you don't cure a toxic relationship by starting a YouTube channel. You don't start something na, sige, patitibayin namin yung relationship namin sa pamamagitan ng isang public na business. That's not the way that you make a relationship work out. That's not the way that you start a good relationship or continue a good relationship. Of course, kung pareho kayo ng mga goals, but gaano katibay ba yung mga goals kung pera-pera lang ang hanap? Kung gusto lang na akin ka na, at para hindi ka maagawan ng iba. Diba, mga kakampi? We're going to be talking about this, mga kakampi, yung pagbalik ng Jamill na channel within 3 weeks. Diba, nabura nila ang channel nila 3 weeks ago. And they're already back. And right now, alam niyo mga kakampi, their video is almost 1 million views within 4 or 5 hours. Hindi ko masasabi tuloy na ito ay dahil sa yun. They really are, this is a business move, but at the same time, mga kakampi, this is a business move. Kung patungkol talaga sa relationship nila, they wouldn't need to come back on as a couple. At sapat na yung kayamanan nila para pwedeng mag-retire, no? Okay, mga kakampi. But of course, when you really want to make a lot of money, you're going to ensure that that happens. So mga kakampi, let's go ahead. Isa pang beses papanorin natin itong clip na ito, and then ipapakita ko sa inyo yung bagong video nila. Just parts of it. Habang magsasalita ako, I'll do a voiceover habang pinapanood niyo yung video clips nila. Okay? Ito, balikan natin ito saglit, mga kakampi. We're going to do this one more time.
Kayo, like I know kanina I asked them, okay lang kayo nag-start? Because I know you said November of last year. And,
so this was back in 2018.
Jamill has around 2.3 million na. Crazy. Within,
So within 8 months, they had gotten to 2.3 million subscribers, mga kakampi. Kaya sobrang saya nila na ituloy yung channel nila.
We're gonna round applause, guys. Wow.
Paano kayo nag-start ng YouTubing nyo?
Pass.
Pass!
Camille na.
Pass! Ayaw niyang sagutin kasi alam niya nakikahiya. Alam niya na yung may mga butas yan kung bakit hindi dapat. Hindi dapat sila magpasimula ng channel.
Hindi. Nag-start kami nung November. Tapos, hindi pa kami doon nag-video. Sa Facebook lang talaga. And, syempre dati merong humahawak sa amin na talagang pwede kami paghiwalayin. So, naisip namin na gumawa kami ng page ng Jamill.
Okay.
Okay, so dito sinabi nga mismo galing sa bibig niya na simulan yung channel para hindi sila mahiwalay. What were those external factors? Siguro may mga ibang gustong mangligaw sa isa sa kanila. Siguro may iba silang papuntahan. But anyway, it just seems that this was done. I mean, it doesn't just seem. They literally said that this was done in order to save their relationship. That's never a good reason to go in to a YouTube channel, mga kakampi. You should never, this is very similar to when people say, oh, let's have a child. Manganak tayo, makaanak tayo. Para sa ganon, hindi na tayo maghihiwalay.
Gusto nila ng pressure.
They want some sort of external pressure para pilitin sila to stay in that relationship, which is not a good thing, mga kakampi.
Para hindi kami maghiwalay. So,
True love.
Kasi parang sineseparate kami ng landas. Di pwede. Gawa tayo page B para
Hindi pwede. Bakit hindi pwede? Ano ba ang pangalan niya? Hindi Jamill. Hindi ko alam ang pangalan niya. Basta, bakit pa hindi pwede? Okay, this is actually something na tunay na problema dito na napansin ko. Romance is over-romanticized. To the point na toxic man yung relationship, itutuloy yan. Itutuloy yan. And you don't have to. Not only do you not have to, you shouldn't. It's against what psychologists would suggest. Pero ito na mga kakampi. I've been watching this one and tingnan nyo mga kakampi. I mean, it's just saglit lang. It's basically, I mean, makikita talaga, this is PR moves. And kung toxic man yung relationship nila, why would they come back to the platform? They don't need to. I think that the real tragedy of this, tingnan natin mga kakampi, this was, let's see here, just earlier, and they're already at almost 1 million views and 220,000 subscribers. I mean, seriously. We can see that this isn't, if you make a business to save your relationship, that's one of the worst things that you can possibly do. It's a classic thing that people do. Pagkasal sila, oh, the marriage isn't going well. Let's go ahead and have a baby. No, that's the worst thing you could do. The relationship isn't going well. Let's have a YouTube channel. The relationship isn't doing well. Let's delete the YouTube channel. And of course, maraming tao na nagsa-speculate na may kinalalaman ito sa BIR. But who cares about that, mga kakampi? This is an important thing to discuss. Hindi lang para kay Jamill, kundi siguro isa din kayo sa in a toxic relationship, pero tinutuloy nyo lang because of outside social pressures. This is real shit, mga kakampi. It's not fake stuff. It's like, this is legitimately a terrible thing that's happening. So they tell the story of why they broke up. Sinasabi nila dahil naging toxic, may mga opportunista na pumasok sa buhay nila, may mga tao na gusto nila na ganito, ganyan, which is absolutely stupid, mga kakampi. Kung nasa isang katayuan ka, where you feel like hindi sapat yung tibay ng relationship, you really shouldn't be doing stuff like this. That's the reality of it, mga kakampi. And people get so pressured and think so much that they have to force themselves to be in relationships, which is not the case. Hindi naman kailangan pilitin ang isang relationship, mga kakampi. And I hope you know that, but I personally, I've been in toxic relationships, you know, where I wasn't right for the person, they weren't right for me, and sinubukan naming pilitin ang relationship na yun. But because there are certain cultural values, there are certain values sa society na nagsasabing, sige, pilitin nyo. Like, make sure na you guys don't maghiwalay. Which is just, it's stupid, mga kakampi. Our happiness should not be sacrificed para lang social pressure ng mga iba. Look at this. They're so cute. They made a video. Look at that.
Ma-open ka lang ang ma-open, pero hindi totoo.
Chill ka lang kasi.
Come on, Los.
5-2 nga eh. Matatapos na yan.
Ina, lagi naman talo.
So after going through this whole entire thing of talking about how they just needed time to themselves, they're making this video.
Partner network, but there are no results. MediaCube is the most technological.
They're making this video for what? It's a PR move, mga kakampi. And it's really, really sad to me na di pa sila natauhan. Now, of course, we don't know their full relationship. We don't know their full story. But this happens enough. And I know that from experience, from personal experience, and from observations, that this happens enough. This isn't about Jamill, mga kakampi. This is about a bad value system as it pertains to relationships dito sa Pilipinas. There's also, diba, si Sarah Abad and Jay Contreras ng Kamakazi. Naghiwalay sila. At sobrang daming tao ang nalungkot. Hindi lang nalungkot, kundi parang nagwala sila. Oh, hindi pwede, hindi po pwede ito. Like, people get so involved in other people's relationships here, and it's not right. There are things called toxic relationships that exist. And sometimes those toxic relationships continue only because of social pressures.
Bakit? Bakit involved yung mga tao?
Siguro gusto din nila ng love story nila. At siguro kung kung hindi natuloy yung isa sa mga idols nila, kung hindi natuloy yung relationship nila, akala nila hamak na sila sa pag-ibig. Like, if they couldn't do it, then I have no hope. And so they get angry, they get upset at the people because they're supposed to be the role models of what a good relationship is. And it is overstepping boundaries. Boundaries exist for a good reason. At hindi ko alam kung bakit hindi yan masyadong pinag-uusapan. It's like you can tell just in basic conversations kung sinabi ng isang tao na, kumusta kayo ng girlfriend, boyfriend mo? And then sasabihin mo, hindi na kami, bakit? Anong nangyari? You know, like, it's like, dude, calm down. Calma lang. Hindi lang kami para sa isa't isa. Ganyan kasimple. But people freak out. I mean, people end up in relationships. They end up in marriages. They get married. They have kids. And then they realize at that point, 10, 20 years later, hindi pala sila tama para sa isa't isa. Or pansamantalang lang pala yung relationship nila. Something has to change. And it's definitely not, kailangan pilitin pa. You just need to work it out. That is definitely not the case, mga kakampi. Actually, psychologists say if a relationship cannot be worked through, kung may toxic talaga, mas mabuti maghiwalay na lang yung mga tao. Alam ko hindi yan uso. Hindi yan yung kanais-nais. Sana nga you just happen to stumble upon the right person for you. Pero hindi nga ganyan ang buhay. So let's take a look, mga kakampi. Habang pinapanood nyo ito, I'm just going to read something that psychologists, some articles. This one is from the Time. This is from Time magazine, written by, let's see here, sino yan? This is written by Jamie Ducarme, and they are quoting psychologists. I'll go ahead and start reading while this Jamill thing plays. It's a common refrain. Relationships are hard work. Fights are normal. Rough patches are the par for the course. True as that may be, however, these platitudes can distract from legitimate causes for concern in one's social and romantic life, including signs that a relationship may have become or always was toxic. So isipin natin, mga kakampi, kung nasimulan yung relationship na ito noon pa, and the reason they made a YouTube channel was specifically so that they could stay together. And ulit, mga kakampi, I'm kind of tired of this. Wag po natin pansinin itong Jamill. Yes, that's what we're talking about, but this applies to everyone's life. Like, let's apply intelligence to other aspects of life. That's one of the most important things sa isang resume is transferable skills. Transferable skills nga na let's go ahead and connect and associate this to our own personal lives and to the lives of other people in our lives. Okay? So hindi ito lang about Jamill. And that's how I'm going to say this. That's how all my videos are. This is not meant to be a discussion of a specific people or a specific person. It's always meant for educational purposes, para mapag-usapan ng husto for yourselves and how it applies to other aspects of life. So what is a toxic relationship? Dr. Lillian Glass, a California-based communication and psychology expert who says she coined the term in her 1995 book, Toxic People, defines, so ito yung tao na nag-coin ng term toxic, defines a toxic relationship as any relationship between people who don't support each other and where there's conflict and one seeks to undermine the other, whereas there's competition, where there's competition, where there's disrespect and a lack of cohesiveness. So, hindi ba mas maganda, mga kakampi, na sa halip ng ina-encourage natin ng mga tao to work it out, we encourage people, oh, sorry, there's an ad. We encourage people, instead of just always work it out, why don't we encourage people to really analyze kung nasa maling relationship sila? Siguro isa sa mga dahilan ay purity culture. Siguro nagsasabi ng tao, oh, may ginawa ko kasama itong tao na ito, so dapat magpakasal kami or dapat kami na forever, habang buhay. But mga kakampi, we know, we see it enough in teleserye that affairs happen. We see, and why do the affairs happen? Because the person is a cheating, like a lying, no good kind of person, a cheater? Or is it more realistic that we need to rethink things? Siyempre, cheating and lying are not okay. But you know what also isn't okay? Not realizing the reality of life. Human evolution, biology, psychology, etc., etc. Sa halip ng naghahanap tayo ng sagot para sa sangkatauhan, kung bakit ganito at ganyan yung sangkatauhan, mas sinasabi pa na ito ay dahil liar and cheater ito and villain and blah blah blah. Okay, well, I guess everybody's just a liar, cheater, and villain because it happens so much. There has been research na may mga tao na nag-cheat. And it was something like, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was something around the lines of like 80% of people have admitted to cheating, whether they told their partner or not. So I guess 80% of the people in the world are evil. Ayon sa logic na ginagamit natin, mga kakampi. Like I said, lying and cheating, never a good thing. Pero if we can just kind of come down to earth a little bit and be honest with ourselves and matauhan tayo, mamulat tayo na purity culture and things like that are bullshit, then we will get one step closer to actually coming up with some sort of an answer as to what the correct moves are. Ituloy ko yung article na ito, mga kakampi. While every relationship goes through ups and downs, Glass says a toxic relationship is consistently unpleasant, draining for the people in it, to the point that negative moments outweigh and outnumber the positive ones. At masasabi ko nga, mga kakampi, nakarating din ako sa mga ganyan punto sa buhay ko. Like, sometimes it's better to just cut your losses instead of pilit ng pilit. And I understand there are social pressures na pilitin ang isang relationship. Siguro yan ang dahilan kung bakit may Jamill. So siguro sa halip ng purong pananampal kay Jamill na, oh, they're so stupid for being in this situation, tumingin din tayo sa salamin, mga kakampi. Wag po tayong maging hypocrites. Diba? Dr. Kristen Fuller, a California-based family medicine physician who specializes in mental health, adds that toxic relationships are mentally, emotionally, and possibly even physically damaging to one or both participants. If you're so stuck in the concept of ito yung villain, siya yung kontrabida, ako yung kawawa, yung martyr, yung blah blah blah, which sometimes ganun nga talaga, mga kakampi. We should not ever victim blame. But we should also be smart, and we should also come to realize some things. And unfortunately, we just can't realize them kung naniniwala tayo sa mga toxic values, which is you should always try to work things out. Sometimes you should not try to work things out. Sometimes you should just simply say, like Jay Contreras and Sarah Abad said, oo, naghiwalay sila, but they're going to remain good friends, and they're going to continue to be loving parents to their children. Yun ang maturity, mga kakampi. You know, the mature thing is to break up before the wedding. The mature thing is to break up when you realize na hindi pala kayo para sa isa't isa. The mature thing is to realize na may mga sariling problema na dapat harapin muna bago pumasok sa isang relationship. Kadalasan, pumapasok ang mga tao sa relationship dahil nainip sila or umaasa sila na may magliligtas sa kanila from their boredom, from their sadness, from their loneliness. That's just the human condition, mga kakampi. Hindi mawawala yan. But it will get worse kung nasa isang relationship na hindi naman para sa atin, di ba? These relationships don't have to be romantic. Glass says friendly, familial, and professional relationships can all be toxic as well. What makes a relationship toxic? Fuller says people who consistently undermine or cause harm to a partner, whether intentionally or not. So maaring aksidente lang, maaring hindi sinasadya na masaktan yung ibang tao, that can be toxic. You know, it's not always dahil kontrabida siya. No. In fact, most of the time, it's not because kontrabida siya. Most of the time, it's because people are people who go through shit and they need to work out their shit. Okay, mga kakampi? And sorry kung masyadong aggressive yung tone ko. It's just I've noticed this bullshit for years, and I'm getting really, really tired of it because people are not actually learning the correct lessons from these things. They just move on and say, no, we didn't work hard enough, or oh, she's so bad, or yo, he's so bad. Most of the time, that isn't the case. Yes, there are abusive situations. People should get out of them. But most of the time, it's just because people are forcing themselves to be in something that they shouldn't be forcing themselves to be in. Maybe they were in a toxic relationship, either romantically or as a child. Maybe they did have the most supportive, loving upbringing. Maybe they didn't have the most supportive, loving upbringing. See, often they have a reason for their behavior, even if it's only subconscious. They could have been bullied in school. They could have been suffering from an undiagnosed mental health disorder, such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, an eating disorder, any form of trauma. That was the case for Carolyn Gamble, a 57-year-old woman, Maryland-based motivational speaker who says she fell into toxic relationships after a tumultuous childhood marked by losing her mother to a drug overdose and suffering physical abuse at the hands of her father. When she grew up, she found some of the same themes in her marriage and to her now ex-husband, who she says became verbally and emotionally abusive. I realized in this life, regardless of the cards that we are dealt, sometimes there are things that we have to let go of, she says. Sometimes Glass says, toxic relationships are simply the result of an imperfect pairing, i.e., not compatible, incompatibility. Like two people who both need to control, or a sarcastic type dating someone who with thin skin. It's just that the combination is wrong. Diba mga kakampi, hindi laging porket yung tao niyon ay ganito ganyan. That just may be a sign na hindi kayo good match. Diba? It's not that they're evil. It's not that you're evil. It's not that they're weak. It's not that you're weak. It's just that hindi kayo para sa isa't isa. Heidi Westra, I'll continue the article. Heidi Westra Brock, a 46-year-old chiropractor living in Illinois, is familiar with these mismatches. Brock considers herself an empath and a people pleaser and grew up assuming everybody was nice and everybody wanted what was best for you. Instead, she says her personality attracted controlling partners who forced her to sacrifice her needs for theirs and constantly work for approval that never came. Though they had very different stories, both Brock and Campbell say they endured toxic relationships for years, underscoring that no two bad relationships are exactly alike. So, ano kaya yung mga warning signs of a toxic relationship? The most serious warning signs may include any form of violence, abuse, or harassment, which should be dealt with immediately. But in many cases, the indicators of a toxic relationship are much more subtle. Ibig sabihin, hindi halata. The first and simplest is persistent unhappiness, Glass says. If a relationship stops bringing joy and instead consistently makes you feel sad, angry, anxious, or resigned, like you've sold out, it may be toxic. At mga kakampi, siguro yan, di ba, sinabi ng Jamill. So, nagsimula sila ng ganitong YouTube channel nang dahil sa gusto nilang hindi sila maghihiwalay. That is toxic reasoning if ever there was one. It is selling out. You may also find yourselves envious of happy couples. Fuller says negative shifts in your mental health, personality, or self-esteem are all red flags too. These changes could range from clinically diagnosable conditions such as depression, anxiety, eating disorders, to constantly feeling nervous or uncomfortable, especially around your partner. Feeling like you can't talk with or voice concerns to your significant other is another sign that something is amiss. So kung hindi kayo pwedeng magsabi ng lahat ng mga naisip nyo, lahat ng mga nararamdaman nyo, kung uncomfortable kayo tuwing kasama mo siya, that is a sign of a toxic relationship.
And they even said that, diba, sabi mo kanina,
Yeah.
Not mabilis silang matrigger ng...
Yes, mabilis silang mag-trigger. Yan ang isa sa mga sinabi nila, mga kakampi, sa video nila. Pwede niyong panoorin yung video nila. They said that they would get triggered so easily by one word or something that the other would say. That is a sign of a toxic relationship. So, yung pananimula, yung bagong pananimula nito sa bagong YouTube channel nila is not something we should be supporting. It's something we should be discussing. Why continue in a toxic relationship? Diba, mga kakampi? We already saw that with all the pranks that they've done to one another. See, dito sila, parang kunwari masaya sila, pero hindi nila ginagawa yan para sa isa't isa. They're doing that for the views. They're doing that for the video. This is an actually played out skit. Diba? Does this really have to do with them bonding, or does it have to do with them wanting to get views? They're like, okay, buksan natin ulit yung channel natin and let's do some pranks para, you know, nakabalik na, and we'll get a lot of views and a lot of subscribers. Ganyan lang yan, mga kikampi.
Sabi ni Batas natin, maganda daw yung intoxicated relationship. Less inhibitions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, ano pala ang ibig sabihin? Ano pala ang ibig sabihin? Intoxicated as in... Lasing. As, di ba? Yeah, tama. Tama naman. Kasi siyempre, kung hindi sila mamalayan na, hindi pala kami para sa isa't isa, you know, yeah, of course, they're going to be in love with the intoxication, di ba? Not each other. That's why they say that relationships should be based on mutual satisfactory relationships, di ba, mga kakampi? So I think we should really be caring about mental and emotional health pagdating sa mga bagay na ito. Let's continue this article. Let me go ahead and share this, mga kakampi, para makikita nyo. And I'll share the link to this. I think that it's just very, very sad to me that we like to sacrifice our mental health for fame and for social pressures na hindi talaga dapat, no, mga kakampi? We should be prioritizing our mental health over any person. Because kung hindi tama para sa'yo, hindi rin tama para sa ibang tao. Right? A relationship is built on mutual love and respect. And we're part of the problem if we're the ones who are saying, oh, they should just be in the relationship. They should just make it work. No, you're encouraging something that may be toxic. You don't know the entire story. Kung ano bang nangyayari. Well, when Jay Contreras broke up with his wife, naalala ko tuloy. May mga kaibigan ako, sa US ito, pero taga Pilipinas sila. At sobrang parang naiyak sila dahil nag-break sina Jay at Sarah. Sabi ko, bakit naman? Hindi naman relationship nyo yan. You don't know if they're really right for each other. Only they can know that.
Ano yung sinasabi nito ni Jamill recently na tao din daw yung nagpapahiwalay ulit sa kanila?
Yeah, exactly. They're blaming it on other people. But here's the thing, mga kakampi. If you are really, really strong and confident in your relationship, it doesn't matter who is trying to create a wedge between the two of you. Magta-team up naman kayo. Sasabihin nyo, mga bullshit lang yan. We're not going to, hindi naman tayo idadamay ng ganyan ka-bullshitan. If you're able to be so easily swayed by the external factors of other people, that means you're together for the wrong reasons.
Walang trust.
Walang trust, walang communication. We need to look in the mirror. We need to look at ourselves. You should also look out for changes. Ituloy natin yung ito. Look out for changes in your other relationships or in the ways you spend your free time, Fuller says. You may feel bad for doing things on your own time because you feel like you have to attend to your partner all the time. You cross the line when you're not your individual self anymore and you're giving everything to your partner. Diba? Yan din ang sinabi ko patungkol sa change oil situation. Is bakit naman susubukan mong baguhin ang sarili mo para sa ibang tao? Diba? We should never ever change who you are for another person. If you feel that you need to do that, that is not the relationship for you. Ganyan kasimple.
And they also said something like, wala silang time to bond with each other.
Yeah.
Kasi lahat ginagawa nila parang for the channel.
For the channel.
So
don't make a channel about their relationship.
Yung free time nila naging, parang di natin alam paano nila ginagamit yung free time nila, but most of their time, yung nakikita siguro ng mga audience na bonding nila is not really bonding, it's work.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, Fuller says concern from family or friends should be taken seriously, particularly since people in toxic relationships are often the last to realize it. So Jamill, kung nanonood kayo nito, wag siguro ituloy yung relationship nyo. Seriously. Like, be a good example.
Or really work on it.
But the thing is I'm not seeing working on it. I'm seeing more of just, let's get the views. You know? You're already rich enough. You're already rich enough to be set up for life. We already know you're making almost $100,000 US American dollars a month. Do you really need to continue? You don't. Even in the US, you guys are richer than 90% of the people. Maybe 96% of the people. Okay. By the time, let's see here. Brock says that that was true of her relationship, that it took them forever to realize it, which perpetuated the damage for years. By the time I actually started realizing I was in something that wasn't healthy, it was so normal to me that it didn't seem like that big of a deal. You get paralyzed because you're just too used to it. Yun nga yan, mga kikampi. You feel like you are actually, that toxicity is the norm. Akala mo na normal lang yan. And I see that so much. People giving that kind of toxic advice. Yeah, ganyan talaga ang mga relationships, kaya ituloy nyo lang, work on it na lang. No, stop that. Sorry, napamura muntik ako. Stop that bullshit advice. I still did mura, but not as bad. What should you do if you're in a toxic relationship? If any one of those red flags sound familiar, it's time to take action. If you feel that you're in physical danger, you may need to involve the authorities. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is also available for 24/7 guidance. That's for the US. But, I'm interested kung nandito pa rin si kabatas natin. Please, I hope you can also do a video about this, talking about the legal aspects of this as well. If the harm is emotional or mental, you'll have to decide if it's possible to work through the issue. If underlying triggers such as depression or trauma are influencing one or both individuals' behaviors, Fuller says therapeutic or medical treatments may help. So yung Jamill, siguro dapat magpatingin sila sa family therapist or couple therapist. This is another problem, di ba mga kakampi? That still in the Philippines, people think you're weak if you go to therapy. People think that, or people internalize shame about seeking out therapeutic health. Diba? Kung minsan ginagamit yung salitang resilient. Pero Pinoy ako, kailangan resilient ako. Bullshit po yan, mga kakampi. If you have mental health issues, there is nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't mean anybody is weak for having mental health issues. It's okay to seek out help. Glass agrees that getting to the root of the problem is important, but says that sometimes the answer may be to walk away. Diba mga kakampi, kung minsan yan ang sagot, maghiwalay kayo. Diba? Work on yourselves, find your own happiness. Don't make someone else your happiness. If you make somebody else your happiness, you will for sure be disappointed. And because how can anybody possibly live up to that? I really am a firm believer that you have to try to work everything out and understand why the person is toxic. You may be able to live with it, but on the other hand, you may not. If you can't, you've got to get out of it. We have to not put ourselves in that position. Brock and Gamble took that advice in their own lives, and both say they're better for it. Brock is now happily remarried and coaches women who are leaving toxic relationships. Gamble is purposefully single and runs a nearly 7,000-person toxic relationship support group on Facebook. Love should never cost you your peace of mind. It should never cost you your joy. It should never cost you your happiness. If there's more negative in the situation than positive, something has to change. So yun mga kakampi, isa pang beses, ipa-play ko yung sinabi ng Jamill kung bakit nila nasimulan yung channel nila. Tandaan po natin ito mga kakampi.
Tsaka dapat yung viewers din magbago sila ng viewing habits and choices nila. Kasi kung meron talagang nagpapasikat sa ganyang kind of story, ganyang love team,
then itutuloy
ng toxic
lang.
relationship. Kasi
it's supply and demand.
Yumaman nga sila di ba? Ikinayaman nila yung pagiging lovey-dovey couple nila.
Yeah, exactly. So part of the problem pala ay tayo bilang mga viewers. Wag na natin purihin ang mga ganitong styles or channel ideas or channels that, you know, love teams. Like sabi ko nga, it's kilig culture. And guess what? There are so many other things na dapat asikasuhin dito sa Pilipinas, di ba? There's issues with poverty, di ba? Hindi ba mas mahalaga yan kaysa kung ano man relationship? Like, I know people want to be entertained, but if you continue in a life of entertainment lang, walang magbabago. The corruption is not going to end because the corrupt are corrupt. They're not going anywhere. It needs to be people themselves critically thinking and holding the corrupt accountable. Diba? So yung mga ganitong contents na sobrang nakafocus sa mga love teams, sobrang focus sa mga kilig culture, it's not going to cause the Philippines to progress in any way. Siguro akala ng iba na yan talaga ang pag-asa nila sa buhay, na magpakasal at sana yayaman yung partner nila. 'Di ba? But that's the wrong priority. Isa pang basis, mga kakampi, ulitin natin kung bakit nasimulan nila yung YouTube channel nila.
So, you know how they say these guys have like channels that are over a mil already. Kayo, like I know kanina I asked them, okay lang kayo nag-start? Because I know you said November of last year. And if you guys don't know, like Jamill has around 2.3 million na.
Crazy.
Within, so,
Warpa.
Give it a round of applause, guys. Wow.
paano kayo nag-start ng YouTube niyo? Pass. Camille na.
Hindi. Nag-start kami nung November. Tapos, hindi pa kami doon nag-video. Sa Facebook lang talaga. And, syempre dati merong humahawak sa amin na talagang pwede kami paghiwalayin. So, naisip namin na gumawa kami ng page ng Jamill.
Okay.
Para hindi kami maghiwalay.
Yeah,
So,
true love.
Kasi parang sineseparate kami ng landas.
Bakit? Sabi nga ng kung sino yung moderator na yun, hindi ko kilala. Sabi niya, true that. Sinusuportahan niya yung mga ganyan, mga kakampi. And I know as viewers, that got Jamill to 12 million subscribers bago nila binura ang kanilang YouTube channel. That 12 million people think that same way. Oh, it's so romantic. Go ahead, save your relationship through a YouTube channel. No. I recently watched Spider-Man Homecoming. If you are nothing without the suit, then you do not deserve the suit. If you are nothing without the relationship, you should not be in that relationship.
Di pwede. Gawa tayong page, para wala magawa yung mga yan. Gawa kami ng page, then yun na.
Yun yung Jamill page na.
Yung Jamill page.
Okay, yun mga kakampi.
Ulitin daw yung yung quote
Yung quote?
from the Time magazine, yung last quote.
Oh.
Love should not be...
Yeah, love should not be... Where is it? Saglit lang. I closed out of the window. Time magazine. Oh wait, I know. I have it here. Love.
Love should never cost you your peace.
Yes.
It should never cost you your joy. It should never cost you your happiness.
Yes. Never cost you your joy, never cost you your happiness. At tandaan natin, nang sinabi ni Peter Parker kay not Ned Stark, Tony Stark. Tony Stark. Sabi niya, don't take away my suit. I'm nothing without it. Sabi nga ni Tony Stark, if you're nothing without the suit, then you do not deserve the suit. Exactly. Some people are deliberately numb. Good values and social principles don't matter anymore. They are even worse than animals. Hindi ko alam kung anong ibig mong sabihin dyan, kakampi, because I think part of the issue is things like purity culture, is things like saying, hayop ka kung marami kang iba't ibang partners. No, that's not the case. That's not the case. Because you need to determine for yourself what is right for you at kung anong hindi right for you. And if what's right for you is you have a ton of different partners, pero alam nila, lahat sila nakakaalam, and there's consent, then that's what's right for them. That's what makes them happy. You know, Gail and I were reading something just earlier about a study about how the ideas of purity actually comes from Western ideas from the 1900s.
Yeah, from the propagandistas.
Yes, it came from these concepts that said that women need to be these basically women need to not be humans. They need to be these angelic domesticated partners. That is misogynistic, it is sexist, it is wrong. Kung ano ang tama para sa isang tao, hindi naman tama para sa lahat. But something that isn't right, that really, really isn't right, is saying that there is only one way to live a person's life. Diba, mga kakampi? That's what brings way more troubles than people actually doing something. Let's say, sabihin natin ito mga kakampi, yung matao na nagsasabing na cheaters. Kung sinasabihan nila, yung mga partners nila, na gusto nila ng mga iba't ibang partners, may choice na yung partner nila, di ba? Kung gusto nilang maging, what's the word, participant sa relationship niyon. So I think we really need to rethink morality. Because if not, tuloy-tuloy lang yung mga Jamill. Tuloy-tuloy lang yung mga purong sakitan pagdating sa mga relationships. You know?
Nafa-force lang.
Nafa-force lang. Pinipilit lang.
At saka yung sa article din na sinabi na isang main driver ng toxic relationship kasi ay fear.
Yeah.
Gaya ng sa Filipino culture, I think, well, based lang din sa observations ko.
Mhm.
Takot yung mga tao mag-isa
Yeah.
kasi ginagawang insurance yung family.
Yeah.
So kung ikaw tatanda ka na single, delikado ka. Walang mag-aalaga sa'yo. So you have to find a partner, you have to have kids para may mag-aalaga sa'yo pagtanda mo. Na okay, well, in a sense, kailangan naman talaga natin ng companionship.
Yeah.
Pero hindi yung basta.
It doesn't always have to be, but it doesn't always have to be romantic companionship. You can have friends
Yeah, tsaka hindi mo
till you're
kailangan-
90 years old.
Hindi kailangan pilitin. Kung
Yeah.
hindi kayo compatible, wag pilitin. Kung
Exactly.
toxic, wag na ituloy.
Exactly. So yan mga kakampi, salamat sa panonood. Huwag kalimutan na sampalin ang like at sampalin ang kampana. Tingnan nyo yung video ni Dwayne Woolley kung saan and subscribe sa kanya din. Thank you for using that clip. Yes, okay. Referring to social equity. Yes, exactly. People should have that equity, should have that equality, and people should be willing to consider new ideas, because currently the Jamills, the romantic ideas, the fairy tales, the Disney, it's just not going to work, mga kakampi. And it's not said enough. I don't hear this message enough. That's how I know.
Sinisipan ka na.
Yeah, sinisipon na ako, nagiging emotional na ako. Like, it's just, naiintindihan ko mga kakampi, because I grew up in a culture na sobrang makaparehas sa Pilipinas. Sa purity culture, lahat niyon. I almost got married. Magiging personal lang ako mga kakampi. I nearly got married to somebody because in my religion that I grew up in, I was taught that getting married is the most important thing in life. And having a spouse and having a family is the most important thing to life. And because of those values, I nearly married the wrong person. Why else, mga kakampi? Let's just be real. Real talk na lang. You cannot have sex kung hindi kayo kasal when it comes to Mormonism. When it comes, siguro, ganyan din sa Filipino culture. Like I said, I've said this before, the things that are toxic about the culture I grew up in, toxic din sa Pilipinas. The things that are good about the culture I grew up in, good din sa Pilipinas. Saying that you have to marry somebody in order to have sex is not good at all. It's toxic. It's wrong. It can lead you to being with the wrong person for your entire life. And if I listened to the advice of the people that I love and that I trusted, I probably would have married that person and I probably would have been divorced. So mga kakampi, dapat mag-isip-isip talaga tayo.
Yeah, kung yung values mo ba ay dictated lang ng society or tunay na pinaniniwalaan mo and you want to stand by it and live by it.
Yeah, exactly. So yun mga kakampi, repression does not help. And these fairy tale love stories do not help. They don't help the Philippines progress. 100% fact, kakampi. What helps is people devoting themselves individually to something that is bigger than themselves. And a relationship is not bigger. So anyway, mga kakampi, Gail says I'm talking too much.
Sabi mo 30 minutes lang.
Exactly.
1 hour
I
na.
know. I wanted to be very thorough sa pagbasa ng article, you know. Anyway, mga kakampi, I really, really appreciate yung panonood nyo. And yun, hanggang sa susunod mga kakampi, huwag kalimutan na sampalin ng like, sampalin ng kampana. If you're feeling generous, please feel free to share this video. I mean, I feel like, kayo naman mga kakampi, I feel like this is not talked about nearly enough on YouTube or anywhere in the Philippines about, at least in a public sense. Shout out Kai Dwayne. I was using your clips earlier, Dwayne. And thank you. By the way, mga kakampi, subscribe nyo si Dwayne Woolley. I think that Dwayne is a good example of a love team or a channel that is devoted to sharing relationship stuff that's actually real. You know, it's not about the relationship per se. It's about making content that he loves, that other people love. So, yeah, mga kakampi. Up here.